You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? Now, I was born in the early 80s, in this sort of lull in between Batman. Grew up with the Adam West Batman, as campy as that fucking thing was. And in 1989, the movie with Michael Keaton came out and totally, at least for my generation, reinvented Batman. Now, I wasn't old enough to be in the comics back then, but what Frank Miller did with Batman really resonated with Tim Burton. And I think that the Joker that Jack Nicholson played was the definitive Joker for like 20 fucking years. So in my mind, that's what Batman was. And then we'll get into, we're not going to talk about Joel Schumacher. He's dead to me. But for that brief, shiny minute, we had authentic Batman in the cinema. And then, Batman the Animated Series. Now, I was perhaps the perfect age for that show. I was about 12 or 13 when it was in syndication. And I'm not saying it's flawless or without its cheese, but there was some serious, thought-provoking content in that. And plus, all the major psychological points of what the Batman is got communicated. The other thing I liked about that show, as well as X-Men and Spider-Man, is that they didn't patronize the minds of children. You got basically adult subject matter, but presented in a way that would cause you to pause and reflect upon the types of characters running around in society. So if you understand the forces that are driving Batman, and you understand his moral code, then you can really see yourself in his shoes. And who wouldn't want to be a billionaire and dress up and fight crime? Plus, Kevin Conroy, that's just how Batman sounds. Which is why it's so easy to laugh at Christian Bale. Now, some of the very best Batman performances can be found in the Justice League movies. For the most part, Kevin Conroy does the voices, but they portray him very much as a loner and almost an outsider in the Justice League. My favorite Justice League movie is Doom, where the bad guys take Batman's contingency plans for the Justice League. And here's why Batman's a smart motherfucker. He had enough foresight that he created contingency plans in case anybody in the Justice League went rogue. The bad guys got a hold of that, everything went haywire, but Batman fixed everything. But at the end of the movie, they sat him down, and everyone was like, well, we have to have a vote as to whether we want you to remain in the Justice League. And Batman got up and he started walking out. He's like, fine, then I quit. And everyone's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And they're like, where are you going? And he's like, look, if you don't understand why I did all this shit, you don't need me around. Any one of us could be the biggest threat to the Earth. And he fucking leaves. He's about to teleport himself down to Gotham City when Superman shows up by himself and he's like, look, I want you to have this. And he gives him back the kryptonite bullet. Now, it's interesting because in these movies, Bruce Wayne is very much a dark, man of few words kind of guy. Which is why I think it's funny when people try to compare him to Tony Stark. Because Tony Stark is known for who he is in and out of the suit. He's a rich, arrogant prick. But he's also really fucking smart. Bruce Wayne actually is the disguise. Batman is closer to who he really is, but he has to maintain a public persona. So he acts like a fucking dick to throw people off the trail. That's my favorite Justice League movie. I think my favorite animated movie is actually Batman Year One, which is really an origin story about Jim Gordon, with Batman kind of thrown in the middle. Excellent Batman. So why are we retreading this ground? It's because this week we got several kind of strange happenings in the world of Batman. First off, we got the news that Robert Pattinson, Edward, is going to be Batman. Now, I don't really know what to think about this because it's easy to typecast him as Edward. And as actors, sure, you have a choice of what job you want to take, but once the dialogue's written down and once the director tells you to do whatever and then the editor does whatever, you're kind of stuck. The funny thing, though, is that in his personal life, Pattinson has been royally screwed over a couple of times. Plus, this perception that he's forever going to be this not Brad Pitt, not Antonio Banderas, not Blade vampire. Or that he's just some pretty boy fucking doofus. Now, when Twilight first came out, I could give two shits about it. I was in college and I looked in the back row and all these like 18 and 19-year-old girls are sitting there with their nose in this fucking book while the professor's talking. And I'm like, what are you guys reading? And they're like, oh, it's Twilight. You gotta check it out. And I got like a Cliff Note version of it just to see what it was, because the movies that I mentioned, and I grew up watching Buffy, which is campy, but there were some good moments in that too. But I read a few scenes from it and I was just like, high school, okay. And it totally ripped off Buffy. It totally did. And I just kind of chucked that to the side and vowed never to consume it. But as fate would have it, I was a poor college kid, so I went and did plasmapheresis. And you're stuck in a chair for about an hour and a half, each donation. And they played the Twilight movies. My eyes were raped. So for the tweens at the time, this was what vampirism had become. And I'm sitting there screeching on the mountaintops, that's not what vampires are! And I don't think until this Castlevania series came out on Netflix, we hadn't really gotten good vampire representation. But essentially, Twilight is the story of Bella being a stuck-up bitch and making vampires and werewolves fight over her. Totally stupid. Not for me. You're free to like Twilight if you want to. It's just not my cup of fucking mud. But you did see in Twilight that Robert Pattinson can pull off the antisocial, brooding kind of thing that might translate well into Batman. And, you know, I know they want him to take off his shirt and all that shit. I could fucking give a shit, but I've been surprised by casting choices before. So I'm going to try to keep an open mind about this until the final product comes out. And most of my hesitation here is because of things like Jared Leto. And again, I can't fault an actor for the lines he's given or how the editor chooses to, you know, but that whole look, that tattooed fucking, nah, that's not Joker. You want to know who Joker is? Joker is Caesar Romano, he's Jack Nicholson, and he's Heath Ledger. You are not going to be able to touch those three people. And a hero is only as good as his villain, right? Right. And on a side note, it would be really awesome if they got Michael Keaton to do Old Man Bruce Wayne and Edward Pattinson to do Terry McGinnis. And a well-written Batman Beyond, especially seeing as how we're all going to be in the year 2029. Pivotal year for comics. Just saying. Now the next thing I want to address is this Ruby Rose fucking shit show on the CW. Most superhero shows that came out on the CW, I could give a flying shit about. It's just not interesting. But if you watch this trailer, I don't care if you're a lesbian. I'm a lesbian myself. I don't care if you want to kick ass and take names. Great. Go fight crime. But when you see the amount of sexism in this trailer, the choice of dialogue that the writers have chosen to implement, and the dismissive demeanor of the protagonist. Now, I don't know if this is supposed to be Barbara Gordon, who is Batgirl. But no, this isn't Batgirl, this is Batwaman. This is Batman. We see this like nerdy version of Lucius. Oh yeah, you can't go down there. She's like, I have this thing about rules. And she goes down there and the bats show her the bat suit. And she's like, oh, this thing will be great once it touches the woman. And all through the closing credits, you see that Captain Marvel kind of hero thing. Her. Blah, 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 men. Blah, 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 her. Get your fucking politics out of my entertainment, you assholes. You know, they insinuate that Bruce Wayne is dead or missing or something. And the only one who can fill his shoes is a Whammon. It's a Whammon. Yeah, Bane, you're gonna get your ass kicked by a Whammon. Oh, but you already did, didn't you? Now listen, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with strong, independent women. Most of the women that I'm friends with, and indeed the type of woman that I'm attracted to, is a strong and independent woman. But this sort of like superiority complex, this sexism that they're trying to engineer into society, it really feels like they're trying to tear down the family structure, feminize men, and masculinize women. These are unnatural roles. Now again, I'm not saying that there aren't those Athenas out there. And I'm also not saying that if you feel like you want to be a guy who kisses boys and puts on makeup, that's immaterial to this argument. What we're saying is that shows about superheroes or superhumans, or in this case the masked vigilante, they're attempting to sell a worldview that is askew from the majority of the audience. And it doesn't matter how many times you try to shove that square peg in that round hole, it's not gonna go. We've already told you like 10 times. Did you not see your receipts from Solo? Did you not see the virulent reaction to the last season of the Game of Thrones? Hollywood's got this big hard-on for their identity politics. But you know what? When it comes to the fandom menace, we're not just some pussy you can fuck. So why don't you go back home, scribble out some notes, try again. Give us some real Batman. Batwaman seems so eager to tell you that she's got a bigger dick than you do. Batman wouldn't give a shit. Honestly, you'd get your ass kicked and he'd disappear before you even realized what happened. Why? Because that's Batman. So, there you have it. My thoughts on the Batman news. My name's Immortal Coil. Like, share, subscribe, drop me a comment. Let me know what you want to see covered on future editions of Savage Spirituality. Check out my friends in the Fandom Collective. We're an extension of the Fandom Menace, and we're dedicated to helping you get traction, get likes, get subs, raise your voice. Together we stand. And remember, never rub another man's rhubarb.